On November 14, 1493, Christopher Columbus arrived at a group of islands that would later be known as the Virgin Islands. This visit, part of his second voyage to the Americas, marked the beginning of European involvement in the region. The islands, inhabited by the Arawak, Taíno, and Carib peoples, became a focal point of European exploration and colonization. Columbus named the islands Santa Ursula y las 11,000 Virgins, which in English translates to Saint Ursula and her 11,000 virgins, in honor of a Christian legend. Saint Ursula and her 11,000 virgins is a medieval legend about a Christian princess who led a group of virgins on an ill-fated pilgrimage to Rome, but this idyllic name belied the conflict and exploitation that would soon follow. Columbus's arrival in the Virgin Islands, which he believed to be somewhere in Asia, is a pivotal moment in the history of the Caribbean, marking the beginning of European involvement in the region. While the islands became a crossroads for colonial powers, the indigenous cultures and peoples who first inhabited them were profoundly affected by this early contact. Columbus had discovered for Spain a new world, but what he did not realize at first was that this new world was already inhabited, its people living lives so vibrant, so foreign, that he and his crew would find themselves utterly entranced. He wrote about them with a mix of admiration and condescension, and called these people hijos en Dios, which means people of God. The English would later mistranslate this phrase to Indians. The Virgin Islands, situated at the crossroads of the Caribbean, offered a strategic location for trade and exploration. Columbus and his crew were captivated by the island's lush vegetation, pristine beaches, and towering hills. However, beneath the beauty lay a complex history of indigenous culture and eventual resistance to European encroachment. As Columbus and his fleet explored the seas around islands, they attempted to land on St. Croix, inhabited by the Carib tribe. This encounter became one of the first recorded conflicts between Europeans and the indigenous peoples of the Caribbean. The Carib tribe, native to the Lesser Antilles of the southern Caribbean, were among the most resilient indigenous peoples in resisting Spanish colonization during the Age of Exploration. Renowned for their seafaring skills, warrior culture, and intricate knowledge of the Caribbean's geography, the Caribs mounted a formidable resistance to Spanish incursions. The Caribs' resistance to Spanish colonization was tenacious. They targeted Spanish settlements and vessels, disrupting supply lines and delaying the establishment of colonial control in many areas. Their reputation as fierce fighters and their ability to coordinate attacks made them a constant threat to the Spanish and other European powers. The Caribs' warrior culture emphasized physical strength, strategic raids, and territorial defense in their war against the Spanish. On November 14, 1493, Columbus's ships anchored off the coast of St. Croix as part of their exploration of the Virgin Islands. Upon approaching the island, Columbus's men encountered a large Carib canoe carrying men, women, and children, whom they tried to capture. Columbus marveled at the craftsmanship, the canoes gliding as gracefully as the seabirds above. His journals, though pragmatic, could not hide his admiration. "They are like nothing we have in Spain," he wrote. "These people, though savage, possess skills and knowledge that rival any craftsman in Europe." He Caribs were known for their fierce reputation and were prepared to defend their territory. The Carib dugout canoes were even more impressive than those of the Taíno, larger and more streamlined for speed and agility. Their craftsmanship spoke of a people accustomed to long voyages and the challenges of open sea travel. Unlike the friendly Taíno, the Caribs were armed, carrying bows, arrows, and spears tipped with sharpened bone. The Caribs' mastery of naval technology was a cornerstone of their resistance. They constructed large dugout canoes from hardwood trees, capable of carrying up to 50 warriors. These canoes were swift and maneuverable, making them ideal for hit-and-run tactics. The Caribs could traverse great distances quickly, enabling them to coordinate raids across multiple islands and intercept Spanish ships. When the Spanish tried to capture the canoe and its occupants, a skirmish broke out. The Caribs resisted fiercely, inflicting injuries on the Spanish before being overpowered. Several Caribs were taken captive, including a woman whom Columbus's crew described as a warrior leader, but we have to take the Spanish accounts with a grain of salt given their inherent biases and goals. Nevertheless, this encounter revealed the Caribs' determination to protect their homeland and demonstrated the immediate consequences of European exploration. While the Spanish were technologically superior, the Caribs proved to be formidable adversaries, setting the stage for future conflicts throughout the region. The Carib resistance to the Spanish in the Caribbean was a remarkable example of indigenous defiance against a technologically superior foe. Through their mastery of maritime warfare, strategic use of geography, and unwavering determination, the Caribs disrupted Spanish colonial ambitions and left an enduring legacy of resilience. Their story serves as a testament to the strength of indigenous cultures and their ability to adapt and resist in the face of adversity. This skirmish on St. Croix is considered one of the earliest recorded violent clashes between Europeans and indigenous peoples in the Caribbean. It set the tone for future conflicts as European colonizers expanded their reach into the Americas. The incident highlighted the Caribs' reputation as fierce defenders of their territories. Unlike the more peaceful Arawak Taíno peoples of the Bahamas and Hispaniola, the Caribs actively resisted European incursions. Columbus and his crew noted the Caribs' advanced weaponry and physical strength. These observations contributed to the stereotype of the Caribs as warlike compared to other indigenous groups. The Spanish labeled the Caribs as cannibals, though this claim is debated by historians and may have been exaggerated to justify their colonization of the region. Columbus made several comments about Taínos, who claimed to have been attacked by Caribs, a group originally from the northwest Amazon, who, according to new research, were among the Caribbean's first settlers. I saw Taínos with scars on their bodies, and I made signs to them asking what they were, and they showed me how people from other islands nearby came there and tried to take them, and how they defended themselves, Columbus wrote on the first day of his visit to the Bahamas. Another account describes how a group of Taínos, traveling between islands aboard one of the Spanish ships, reacted when they spotted an island inhabited by Caribs. They were terrified, and they were silent, he says, because the Caribs are very warlike. The record describes how, upon sighting the island, the Taínos were speechless, fearing that they would be eaten, and a crew member could not calm their terror. And the Taíno told the Spanish that the people there had only one eye and the face of a dog. The conflict on St. Croix is a significant moment in the history of the Caribbean, illustrating the immediate and violent consequences of European exploration for the region's indigenous peoples. Today, this event is remembered as part of the broader narrative of colonialism and its impact on native cultures. St. Croix, like much of the Virgin Islands, later became a focal point for European colonization, leaving only traces of its original inhabitants' presence. Long before Columbus arrived, the Virgin Islands were home to the Arawak, also known as the Taíno, and later the Carib peoples. These indigenous groups shaped the island's cultural and environmental landscape, leaving an enduring legacy. None of the later European visitors to the Virgin Islands reported encountering Native Americans in what would later be the United States Virgin Islands. Indeed, little is known about the early inhabitants of these islands specifically. Modern archaeological excavations regularly cause historians to revise what they thought they knew about these early settlers. Recent discoveries have indicated that early Arawak settlement of the islands may have been more significant than had earlier been thought. The first recorded settlement of the islands was by Arawak Indians who came from South America around 100 BC, but the Arawak may have been preceded by the Siboney Indians. They are thought to have settled in St. Thomas as early as 300 BC. There is also some evidence of Native American presence on the islands, perhaps in seasonal fishing camps, as far back as 1500 BC. The Arawak inhabited the islands until the 15th century, when they were displaced by the more aggressive Carib, a tribe from the Lesser Antilles Islands. The Caribbean is named for these people, who are also known as the Kalinago. Some historians believe that the Spanish account of the aggressive Carib chasing peaceful Arawak out of the Caribbean islands is based in simplistic European stereotypes, and that the true story is more complex. The Arawak or Taíno people were the first to settle the Virgin Islands around 1000 BCE. Originating from the Orinoco Basin in South America, they were skilled agriculturalists who cultivated cassava, maize, and sweet potatoes. They also fished and gathered shellfish, living in organized villages along the coasts. Arawak society was hierarchical, led by caciques, who oversaw communal life and spiritual practices. Their culture was rich in storytelling, art and craftsmanship, as seen in the intricate pottery and tools they left behind. Despite their peaceful nature, the Arawak would eventually face challenges from the Caribs and later European invaders. The Caribs, a warrior culture also originating from South America, began migrating into the Lesser Antilles around 1200 CE. By the time Columbus arrived, the Caribs had displaced many Arawak communities in the Virgin Islands, particularly on St. Croix. Carib society was decentralized, with small independent communities. They relied on fishing, hunting and limited agriculture, often raiding neighboring islands for resources. The Caribs were known for their navigational skills, using canoes to travel between islands. Conflict between the Arawak and Caribs shaped the history of the Virgin Islands. While the Arawak prioritized settlement and agriculture, the Caribs focused on defense and expansion, becoming a dominant force in the region. Despite facing immense challenges, the Caribs fiercely resisted European colonization. Their knowledge of the terrain and seafaring skills allowed them to launch raids and evade capture. Despite their initial successes, the Caribs eventually faced overwhelming odds. However, the Caribs' legacy of resistance endured. Their ability to challenge Spanish dominance for over a century demonstrated the resilience of indigenous peoples in the face of colonization. Nevertheless, within 150 years after Columbus arrived, the indigenous population of the Virgin Islands had largely disappeared. The survivors either fled to other islands or were assimilated into other indigenous or African-descended communities. After the Spanish and other European powers showed little sustained interest in the Virgin Islands, Denmark emerged as a key colonial force in the region. The Danish West India Company, established in 1671, began colonizing St. Thomas. The island's deep harbour made it an ideal location for trade, and it soon became a hub for commerce. The port of Charlotte Amalie, named after the Danish Queen, became the capital of the Danish West Indies. In 1718, Denmark expanded its holdings by colonizing St. John. Then, Denmark purchased St. Croix, the jewel of the Danish West Indies, from France in 1733, making it the most profitable of the three islands. In 1917, Denmark sold the three Caribbean islands, St. Thomas, St. John, and St. Croix, to the United States for $25 million in gold. Renamed the U.S. Virgin Islands, the island territory remains a part of the United States today. Then, in 1946, President Harry Truman made an offer to purchase Greenland from Denmark for $100 million in gold. This time, Denmark rejected the offer, emphasizing Greenland's importance as part of the Kingdom of Denmark. Thank you for watching to the end of the video, and please let us know what you think in the comments. And as always, leave a like and subscribe to the channel.